Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something super interesting, but also, honestly, a little uncomfortable. We're looking at that visceral, almost unexplainable irritation we feel when someone just steps out of the modern rat race. We're going way beyond the easy excuse of, oh, we're just jealous of their free time. No, we're digging into the hidden mechanical forces behind our own psychological reactions. So let's kick off this mystery with a really tough question. Why does the sheer presence of someone who flat out refuses to play the game feel like a personal insult to us? Think about it. They haven't said a single word criticizing our choices, yet their mere existence can make us instantly defensive. Why in the world is that? Well, contrast these two realities for a second. On one side, you've got the norm, right? A 12-hour workday, mounting debt, sleep deprivation, and chronic anxiety. On the other, a 4-hour workday in some cheap town, reading a book in the afternoon, and experiencing actual peace. When we see someone seamlessly living on that simpler side, it instantly triggers a massive psychological defense mechanism deep inside of us. It forces us to look in the mirror. To really understand this, we need to meet Diogenes the Cynic, the man who counterfeited social values. Let's trace his origin story because it is absolutely fascinating. Back in the day, he was exiled with his father for literally debasing the local metal currency. After that, Diogenes moves to Athens, but instead of chasing wealth to redeem himself, he decides to counterfeit invisible social codes. You know, the unwritten rules of what's successful or what's shameful. And he did this by choosing to live with absolutely nothing. He eventually made his home in a literal clay jar. The crucial point here is that our hostility toward people like him isn't just some personal character flaw. It's a mechanical reaction driven by three hidden gears: the unbearable mirror, shrunken attention, and the failed promise. Let's break these down. Force 1, the unbearable mirror. When we see someone thriving with way less, it triggers what Leon Festinger famously called cognitive dissonance, a massive mental tension caused by conflicting beliefs. Think about it. Psychologically, it is so much cheaper to label a simple living neighbor a lazy slacker than to admit our own years of overtime and sacrifice might have been entirely avoidable. We actually distort the evidence right in front of us just to protect our own worldview. And there's a legendary story that perfectly illustrates this tension. Alexander the Great, the most powerful man in the world, visits Diogenes and offers him literally anything he wants. Diogenes' response? Get out of my sunlight. Boom. While Alexander had the luxury to admire Diogenes, the crowd of generals around him just mocked the philosopher. It was a total defense mechanism. For those generals, still desperately climbing the ladder, the comparison to their own stressful ambitions just stung way too much. That brings us to Force 2, shrunken attention and neurological atrophy. 47 seconds. Let that sink in for a moment. Our average continuous focus on a screen has plummeted from 2.5 minutes back in the early 2000s to this incredibly shocking number. Through constant notifications and swiping, we are physically rewiring our brains to prefer shallow, rapid-fire stimulation over quiet, silent depth. Which brings us to an ancient Greek concept called schole. It means leisure, dedicated idleness, and free time to contemplate. Interestingly enough, it's actually the root of our modern word school. Anyway, when we see someone today who still possesses this ancient capacity to just sit still in the sun without needing a chemical dopamine hit from their phone, our neurologically disadvantaged brains literally panic. We just can't do it anymore. So we react with this hostile, vague irritation. Moving on to Force 3, the failed promise of the market. As the sociologist Zygmunt Bauman pointed out, our modern market structurally depends on us being perpetually dissatisfied. If we were actually happy with what we had, the entire system would just collapse. Diogenes famously used to walk through Athens in broad daylight with a lit lamp, telling people, "I'm looking for an honest man." He was shining a light on the performing, fragmented citizens around him. And just like Diogenes, today's true minimalists are micro-threats to the economy. They expose the massive gap between the authenticity we preach online and our actual compulsive consumption. Diving even deeper, we hit the psychological layer. Think of Carl Jung's shadow, or René Girard's concept of mimetic desire, where we only want things because we're copying what others want. Our contempt for the minimalist is often just disguised admiration. It's us mourning our own lost possibilities. We repress our own deep desire to just slow down, and instead we project that as anger onto the person who actually had the guts to do it. The cynic cuts that mimetic chain of copying desires entirely, desiring only from unfiltered necessity. And that is absolutely terrifying to anyone still trapped in the loop. Let's pivot slightly and talk about the illusion of freedom, positive versus negative liberty. The Greeks had a word for true, positive freedom, eleutheria. This is all about self-mastery. It's the capacity to not need anything external in order to be completely well. Now contrast that with our modern illusion of freedom. We think we're totally free because, hey, we have 50 different cereal brands to choose from at the grocery store. But really, we remain absolutely chained to our compulsive desires and the fear of losing our status. Diogenes achieved this self-mastery by voluntarily giving everything up. There's this incredible story where he smashes his only wooden bowl after seeing a child simply drink water from cupped hands. He said, "A child has beaten me in the art of simplicity." Every single discarded object was a closed door to dependence. I mean, if you own nothing, no one can use your stuff as leverage against you. This wasn't just some lofty philosophical abstraction for him. It was the literal engineering of a free soul. So how do we apply this? Let's look at practicing the simple life, tools for modern liberation. Look, to practice this today, you don't need to go move into a clay jar and alienate everyone you love. We just need to grasp this core concept, autarkeia, or self-sufficiency. It's crucial to understand that the ancient philosophy of cynicism doesn't defend misery or gratuitous suffering. Not at all. It's about functional, joyful independence, having enough to live with dignity without being dependent on external things. It is a radical affirmation of life, not a masochistic denial of it. Here are 3 actionable Greek frameworks to start restructuring your life. And keep in mind, whoever truly walks this path is going to face some real social friction. Step 1 is a gradual letting go. You don't have to throw away everything you own in one weekend. Start small. Let go of the superfluous stuff, whether that's an unworn jacket hanging in your closet or a time-wasting app on your phone. Step 2 is ascesis. This translates to the exercise or training of the soul. You do this through small, voluntary deprivations. Maybe it's eating one meal in complete silence, or going a whole weekend without worrying about being productive. By practicing these small things, you are training yourself like an athlete of freedom. You're building resilience so that when forced deprivations eventually hit, like an economic crisis or an illness, you won't just collapse. And the third step is parrhesia, speaking the truth without a mask. No political calculation, no softened versions. The philosopher Michel Foucault studied this extensively, and he showed it's a profound commitment to total honesty. It demands complete coherence between your speech and your existence. In a modern digital world absolutely full of empty staging and fake authenticity, practicing parrhesia actually gives back the lost weight of your words. But I need to hit you with some brutal honesty here as we wrap up. Real change is monumentally difficult. You are going to fail tomorrow, you'll relapse, you'll probably buy something you don't need, and you'll get distracted. That's okay. What matters isn't having perfectly arrived at the finish line, it's making that repeated choice to just try again. Day after day, in silence. Consistency over time is what actually transforms you. I'm going to leave you with this final, incredibly provocative question to examine your own life. Look around at your possessions, your packed schedule, your goals, and ask yourself, did I actually choose this, or was I simply conditioned to want it? Because honestly, once that question forces its way into your mind, it is never, ever going to walk out again. Thank you so much for exploring this topic with me in today's Explainer. Keep questioning the game, and I'll see you next time.